In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a valve cover on your BMW X1. This is going to be located in the engine compartment. Let's get started. We're going to remove the trim pieces on either side of the cowl. To do this, there's tabs on the front and back. Push up on these tabs and remove the trim. Do the same thing on the other side. Remove the electrical connector. Push on the tab, pull straight back. This is the tab we were pushing on. Go through and remove the harness. You should have to remove these clips. You'll just pull straight up on them and remove them. This harness should be taped to here. Do the same thing on the other side. Using an 8mm socket, we're going to remove the 6 bolts for the cover. There's one in this front corner. Do the same thing on the other side. And we have 2 in the middle. Lift that cover straight up and out. I'm going to remove this seal. Using a flat blade screwdriver, twist counterclockwise and remove the cap. Using an E18 socket, remove the bolt for the brace in the middle. Using a E14 socket, remove the 2 bolts on either side of the strut brace. Remove the strut brace. We're going to remove our electrical harnesses off of our valve cover. We're going to remove these pressure clips. There's one right here. There's one more right here. Our plastic tab on this bottom is broken. We have one more in the back right here. Pop those up, give us some room. Now in the rear hatch, we're going to remove our rear cover. Remove the cover under that. Using a 10mm wrench, we're going to loosen the negative battery terminal. Remove the negative terminal. Put it off to the side where it cannot arc out. We're going to remove the connectors off the front phasers. Push on that tab, pull straight down. Do the same thing on the other one. Using a E6 socket, we're going to remove all of the bolts for the phasers. I'm going to mark these phasers before I remove them. Remove the phaser. These are held in with an O-ring, so give them a little wiggle, a little twist, and slowly work them out. If you need to use a pry tool, do so very gently. Push on the tab and pull down. Pull that front hose off of the valve cover. Remove the connector off the high pressure fuel pump. Push on the tab, pull straight back, remove the connector. We're going to remove the other connector up here. We're going to push on the 2 tabs, pull straight back. Remove the connector, pull it off to the side. We're going to remove the connectors for our coil packs. To do this, lift up, remove the connector. As I'm taking this off, I'm going to mark these. Using a 8mm socket, remove the ground strap. Remove the nut and remove the ground strap. Do the same thing on the back too. Pull your harnesses back out of the way. Using an E6 socket, remove the 2 bolts for the plastic cover on the rear of the motor. Remove the cover. Using an E6 socket, remove the 2 bolts. Remove the plastic cover. Remove the electrical connector off of the fuel rail. Push on the tab, push straight back. We're going to remove the high pressure line from our high pressure fuel pump to our fuel rail. When we do this, be sure you're wearing safety glasses and be sure you've let this fuel system sit for an hour. We're going to slowly crack this fitting free. You can see a little fuel come out. We're going to break both of the fittings free on our high pressure fuel pump. Slowly cracking those free, letting any of the pressure bleed off. When you're breaking these free, do not put your hand near the fitting. Only use a wrench. Once all the pressure is bled off, we can fully remove those nuts. Using a 14mm wrench, we're going to crack all of the lines free for our fuel. Since we've already bled the pressure from the high pressure fuel pump, we should not have any pressure in these lines. Still take caution, crack them, wait for any of the pressure to bleed out of them before removing them. Once all of the pressure is gone, fully spin all of the nuts off. Using a E8 socket, remove the 4 bolts for the hold downs for our fuel rail. Remove the 4 bolts. Remove the caps. Remove the fuel rail from the vehicle. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to remove the nut and the bolt for our bracket plate. Carefully remove the plate. Do the same thing on the back. We're going to use a small pick. We're going to get under the tab on the back side of this connector. We're going to pull straight up. The tab is locking on to this plastic tab right here, and this is the tab you're going to be pushing on. Repeat this process for all 4 injectors. Remove the cover on the high pressure fuel pump. Using a T30, we're going to remove the 2 screws for the high pressure fuel pump. Remove the bolts and the high pressure fuel pump. Using a E10 socket, we're going to remove all of the bolts for the valve cover. These bolts will stay in the cover. They're captured. So we just got to get them all loose. Move the wire harness around as needed to access the bolts. And there's one more right on the corner there. We're going to remove the vacuum line. To do this, there's 2 tabs. Push on both of those tabs. Pull straight back. Those were your 2 tabs. We're going to reach behind the motor using a T40 Bit on a small driver. There's 3 bolts we're going to have to get for this pump. We're going after the top one right now. Remove the bolt. Now we're going after the bottom one. Remove the bottom bolt. The vacuum line that's going to our vacuum pump, we're going to remove that from our T-fitting. Now we have one more T40 screw in the back of our pump. We're going to reach back on this side, right under where that air line is. And if you feel around, you'll be able to feel for it. You really can't see this. And after a bit of persuasion, remove the bolt. You're going to gently pull straight back and remove the air pump. When you remove this, when you're pulling it out, do not let this key move at all. This is going to key right to your camshaft. If you move this, it's not going to sit correctly. We have one more E10 right in the back middle. And then I had one more right here. This will be for a grand total of 20 bolts. We're going to push on the tab and pull up. And this is going to release our harness. We can drop that over to the side. With all of the bolts loose, you're going to grab your valve cover, and we're going to try and get this loose. Give it a good shake. Ours came loose. That's not a common thing on these high mileage BMWs. So if you end up having a problem where you cannot get this valve cover off, you're going to end up using a flat blade. And you're going to come to the corners of the valve cover, and you're going to get your flat blade right here, right on the edge of the cover, and you're going to slowly pry up. This will break the seal along here and down the side. If you get it halfway up and it's still very stuck, continue and do that same process on this back corner. And with our valve cover loose, we're going to lift it straight up. And remove the valve cover. Using a clean rag, we're going to go through and we're going to clean our mating surface. When we're wiping this, we want to wipe all the dirt away from the motor. We don't want to wipe it in. Continue doing this all the way around the motor. Once you're done cleaning our mating surface around the valve cover, we have 2 more that we have to clean. It's going to be right here and here, and then where the fuel pump is going to sit. Install the valve cover. Go around and get all of the bolts started by hand. Do not snug them down. You can crack the cover if you do not tighten them down in the correct sequence. There's going to be a specific sequence we tighten these bolts down. Follow along on screen. We're going to be torquing these bolts to 9 Newton meters. It's going to be 1, 2 all the way in the back middle. This will be 3, 4 on the top corner, 5 in the back left corner, this will be 6, this is 7, this is 8, 9 right next to it, this is 10, 11 right next to it, this is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Go around and give all of the bolts a double check. Make sure they're all at 9 Newton meters. We gave our high pressure fuel pump a good wipe down before installing it. Install the high pressure fuel pump into the valve cover. Get the bolts started. We're going to snug these bolts down by hand, tighten them down so the pump seats squarely, going back and forth. Torque the high pressure fuel pump bolts to 12 Newton meters. We're going to install our air pump. While installing this, be very sure not to move that assembly in the middle. Be patient, be gentle. Install the pump and get the bolts started. Be sure that your pump is fully seated before you get these installed. That's all 3 bolts started. There's no Torx spec, so we're going to get them nice and tight. Install the vacuum line. Push until you hear that click. Give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Grab the vacuum line. We're going to install that back onto our T. Install the brackets. Get the bolts started. Snug down all of the bolts. Torque these to 13 Newton meters. Install the fuel rail. Line up all of your connections. I'm going to get my top nut started onto my injectors. Get the 2 lines started on the high pressure fuel pump. Install the caps for the fuel rail. Torque the hold down bolts to 10 Newton meters. We're going to torque the lines to our high pressure fuel pump to 30 Newton meters plus or minus 3 Newton meters. If you can't get a torque wrench in there, do the best you can. Do the same thing on this top line. Reach down and grab your connector. Install the connector onto the high pressure fuel pump. Push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Pull the harness over. This is going to run under our high pressure fuel pump. Be gentle with your connectors. Make sure they're not caught on anything. And I'm going to drop this assembly down into the clip in the rear. Hear that click. Then we'll do the same thing in the front. If you need to remove that fuel pump connector, go ahead and then reinstall it. Install the injector connectors. Push them down into place until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give them a pull. Make sure they're locked on. Go down the line and do that for all of the injector connectors. Install the connectors into your coils. And the ground strap onto the stud and get the nut started. Do the same thing in the rear. Snug the nuts down. Install the cover over the high pressure fuel pump. Install the cover. Get the screws started. Snug the bolts down. Torque the bolts to 6 Newton meters. We're going to torque our injector lines. We're going to torque these to 23 Newton meters plus or minus 3 Newton meters. If you can't get a torque wrench in there, do the best you can. Install the connector, push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on. Install the connector for the fuel rail, push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on. Install the plastic trim piece on top of the motor. This harness that's running around the back is going to drop into this. Get the screws started. Snug them down. Install the tube onto the front. Be sure it's fully seated. Install the phaser into the valve cover. Make sure it seats nice and square. Now put the connector on the bottom, push until you hear a click. Install the screws. Snug down the screws. Do the same thing on the other phaser. Torque the bolts to 5.5 Newton meters. Install the harness clips into place. One more on top. Install the brace. Do the same thing on the other side. Get the bolt in the middle started. Get the 2 outside bolts started. Snug down the bolts on either side. Snug down the middle bolt, get it nice and tight. Install the seal on the bottom of the cowl. Install the cowl cover into place. Install the bolts for the cover. Snug them down. Do the 2 on the outside. Install the bolts on either side of the front of the cowl. Pull the connector over and install it into the sensor. Push and see, hear a click. If you don't, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on. Repeat that same process for the sensor on the other side. Install the connector. Install the cap. Snug it down. Install the plastic covers on either side. Make sure they snap into place. Grab the negative battery terminal and install it onto the battery. Snug it down. Install the cargo tray. Install the cargo mat. On your first crank of your vehicle, you will have an extended crank for up to 5 seconds. This is for the fuel to get delivered to the high pressure fuel pump and the rail. Once your vehicle is started, if you have no leaks, you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.